It was a rainy Thursday in Sao Paulo when Mr. Alberto, 72, decided to do something he'd never done before. Walk into Le Bernardin, the city's most exclusive restaurant. Dressed in his faded brown jacket, patched-up dress pants, and worn-out shoes, he nervously clutched a crumpled piece of paper in his pocket, an address scribbled down 3 weeks prior. The restaurant's doorman, a tall man in an impeccable suit, looked Mr. Alberto up and down as he approached the glass entrance. For a moment, he hesitated to open the door. The interior of the establishment exuded luxury. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling, tables covered with immaculate white linen tablecloths, and the discreet murmur of well-dressed patrons created an atmosphere of absolute exclusivity. "Excuse me, sir," the doorman said with a forced smile. "Do you have a reservation?" Alberto shook his head timidly. "No, I don't. I'd like to eat something here." The doorman exchanged a look with the maitre d', Gabriel Montessori, a 45-year-old man known for his arrogance. Gabriel approached with measured steps, adjusting his tie knot. His eyes swept over Alberto's simple clothes with thinly veiled disdain. "Sir, I believe there's been a misunderstanding," Gabriel said, maintaining a polite but cold tone. "This is a high-end gastronomic restaurant. Our tasting menu costs 500 reais per person, not including wines. Perhaps you're looking for an establishment more suited to your profile." Alberto felt his face flush. Around them, a few customers started to pay attention to the situation. A woman in a Chanel dress whispered something to her husband, who chuckled discreetly. A young couple pulled out their phones, seemingly filming the awkward scene. "I have money," Alberto mumbled, showing some crumpled bills he pulled from his pocket. "It's not much, but—"
Gabriel Barelli glanced at the money.
"Sir, besides the price, we have a dress code. This is a sophisticated environment. Our clients expect a certain standard." The waiter Felipe, a 25-year-old who was watching the scene, approached with an ironic smile. "Can I help, Gabriel? Maybe the gentleman is looking for the popular restaurant around the corner? They serve a very tasty set meal there for 15 reais." A few stifled giggles echoed from nearby tables. Alberto lowered his head, feeling small and humiliated. His hands trembled slightly as he put the money back in his pocket. "I'm sorry to have bothered you," Alberto said, his voice choked. "I'll leave." He turned towards the door, his shoulders slumped in shame. The customers returned to their conversations, satisfied to have witnessed what they considered a natural situation, an out-of-place old man being put in his proper place. Just then, the kitchen door burst open. Chef Thomas Dubois, the renowned chef of chefs, emerged in his spotless white chef's coat, seemingly there to resolve an issue in the dining room. At 52, Thomas was considered a legend in Brazilian gastronomy. His restaurants had earned 3 Michelin stars, he was a judge on TV shows, and his name was synonymous with culinary excellence. Thomas stopped abruptly when his eyes met Alberto's figure near the door. His expression of irritation instantly transformed into absolute shock, then into something that looked like deep reverence. "No, it can't be," Thomas murmured, his hands visibly trembling. The entire restaurant fell silent. All eyes turned to the famous chef, who looked like he'd seen a ghost.
"Master Alberto,"
Thomas said, his voice cracking with emotion. "Is it really you?" Alberto turned slowly, a small, sad smile crossing his face.
"Hello, Thomas.
You've grown so much." What happened next left everyone speechless. Thomas Dubois, the man who had dined with presidents and celebrities, quickly walked over to Alberto and, to Gabriel and Felipe's horror, knelt before the old man.
"Master, forgive me.
I didn't know you were coming."
If he had known."
Thomas took Alberto's calloused hands in his own. "It's an immeasurable honor to have you in my restaurant." The silence in the restaurant was deafening. Gabriel was as pale as a ghost. Felipe dropped the tray he was carrying, creating a clatter that echoed through the room. "Thomas, my son, get up," Alberto said gently. "You don't need to kneel to an old man like me." "Yes, I do, master. Everything I am, everything I've achieved, I owe to you." Thomas stood up and turned to the astonished room. His voice echoed loud and clear. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce Chef Alberto Santos, the greatest master of Brazilian cuisine. He was my teacher, my mentor, The man who taught me everything about the true art of cooking. Murmurs of confusion began to spread through the room. A woman whispered to her husband, Alberto Santos, that name sounds familiar. Thomas continued, 20 years ago, I was just an arrogant young man who dreamed of being a chef. I was broke, with no prospects, when I met Master Alberto. He worked in a simple canteen in Braz, but his food was pure magic. He took me in as an apprentice, taught me not just techniques, but what it truly means to feed people with love and respect. Alberto tried to interrupt, embarrassed. Thomas, you're exaggerating.
No, master. Do you remember the slow cooking technique you taught me?
Your secret sauce that had 17 different ingredients? Your lessons on how a true chef should serve both rich and poor with the same dedication. Thomas turned to Gabriel, his eyes blazing with contained anger. Gabriel, do you know who you just tried to throw out of my restaurant? The man who created the foundation of every dish we serve here. The man whose recipes earned me 3 Michelin stars. Gabriel was visibly trembling. I didn't know, chef. He didn't say who he was. He doesn't need to say. Thomas thundered. A true hospitality professional recognizes the dignity in every person who walks through that door.
Alberto gently touched Thomas's arm.
Don't be hard on them, my son. They didn't know. But I do, master. And I know you didn't come here by chance. Why did it take you so long to visit me? Alberto sighed, looking around the luxurious restaurant. I read about your success in the newspapers. I saw your photos with famous people. I thought perhaps you had forgotten the old man who taught you in the Braz canteen. Forget. Master, not a day goes by that I don't think of your teachings. Every morning, before service begins, I silently recite your words. Cooking isn't about impressing, it's about nourishing the soul. Tears streamed down Thomas's face as he spoke. Several customers were also visibly moved. Come, master, Thomas said, extending his arm to Alberto. Allow me to serve you as you should have been served from the moment you arrived. Thomas led Alberto to the best table in the restaurant, a table normally reserved for VIPs. He himself pulled out the chair and waited for Alberto to sit down.
Felipe.
Thomas shouted, Bring our best bottle of wine. And you, Gabriel, I want you to personally set the table with our finest porcelain. Felipe and Gabriel rushed to comply, their faces burning with shame. Thomas, this isn't necessary, Alberto said. I just wanted to eat some good food and see you again. It is necessary, master.
Let me cook for you as I learn from you.
With love, with respect, with gratitude. Thomas disappeared into the kitchen, and soon a frantic commotion was heard. In a few minutes, he returned with a simple yet perfectly executed dish, a shrimp risotto with fresh herbs. Recognize it, master? It's based on that shrimp rice you taught me to make.
I just enhanced the technique a bit.
Alberto picked up his fork and tasted a small portion. His eyes closed in pleasure.
Perfect, my son.
You kept the essence but added your own soul. The entire restaurant watched in reverent silence. Some customers had stopped eating to observe this extraordinary scene. Master, Thomas said, sitting beside Alberto, can I make a confession? Of course, Thomas. 3 months ago, I was considering closing everything down. The success, the stars, the fame, none of it was making me happy. I had lost myself, forgotten why I started cooking. When I saw you today, I understood it was the universe sending me a reminder. Alberto smiled, placing a hand on Thomas's shoulder. Success can be a prison, my son. But remember, no matter how high you fly, never forget where you came from and why you started flying.
Master, can uno ask a favor?
Anything.
Could you teach me again?
It doesn't have to be formal. Just some conversations, some lessons on how to maintain humility in success. Alberto laughed, his eyes sparkling. Do you really think an old man like me still has something to teach the famous chef Thomas Dubois? You have everything to teach me, master. You always have. Gabriel timidly approached the table.
Chef, Mr. Alberto.
I'd like to apologize. My behavior was unforgivable. Alberto looked at Gabriel with kindness. Young man, We all judge by appearances sometimes. The important thing is to learn from our mistakes. Sir, if you'll allow me, I'd like to learn about true hospitality. From what I've seen, I know nothing about it. Thomas smiled. Gabriel, Master Alberto is going to give us some lessons on true hospitality, on how to treat every customer as if they were the most important person in the world. Felipe also approached, embarrassed. Mr. Alberto, I also want to apologize. And, if possible, I'd like to learn your techniques.
Chef Thomas always talks about your perfect risotto.
Boys, Alberto said, true cooking isn't about complicated techniques. It's about cooking with love, serving with respect, remembering that every dish can be someone's best meal of the day. An elderly female customer stood up from her table and approached.
Excuse me, Mr. Alberto.
I'm Rosa, a food critic. I can say that today I witnessed something very rare, true mastery not only of cooking, but of life. Other customers also began to approach, wanting to meet the man who had caused such a transformation in the famous chef. Thomas looked around, seeing his restaurant transform into a warmer, more human place. Master, you did in 20 minutes what I couldn't do in 5 years. You transformed this place into a true home. Alberto finished his risotto and sighed contentedly. Thomas, my son, you always knew how to do it. You just temporarily forgot. True greatness isn't about impressing others, but about making others better than they were when they arrived.
Master, I promise I'll never forget it.
And I promise that whenever you need a reminder, you can find me at the Bras Canteen.
I still make my famous feijão tropeiro on Wednesdays.
The whole room laughed, including Gabriel and Felipe, who were now genuinely smiling. Master, Thomas said, can I ask one more question? You can. How did you know I needed this lesson today? Alberto smiled mysteriously. I didn't know, Thomas. I just felt like eating some good food and seeing my favorite student again. Sometimes, the universe conspires to give us exactly what we need at the right moment. When Alberto finally stood to leave, the entire restaurant rose with him. Thomas accompanied him to the door, but this time there was no embarrassment, only respect and love. Master, thank you so much for today. Thank you, my son, for reminding me that a good teacher always learns from their students. Alberto walked towards the street, his back a little straighter than when he arrived. At the door, he turned one last time.
Oh, Thomas.
Next time I come, I might be wearing my Sunday clothes. I don't want your staff to get another scare. Thomas's laughter echoed down the street, followed by the warm laughter of the entire restaurant. That night, Thomas did something he hadn't done in years. He went down to the kitchen after hours and prepared a simple meal for himself. As he cooked, he murmured Alberto's old lessons, rediscovering the pure joy of transforming simple ingredients into something special.
And Gabriel?
He spent the rest of the night researching true hospitality, promising himself he would never again judge someone by their appearance. Felipe also changed. The next day, he welcomed a shabbily dressed customer with the same respect he would give a millionaire. Because sometimes, it takes a simple old man in worn clothes to remind us that true greatness lies in humility, and that the greatest teachers are those who teach us not just techniques, but how to be better human beings.